Dear students, now we are focusing on the transport in mammals. Animals are generally more active than plants, so they need a rapid supply of food and oxygen. The transport system found in man and in many animals is the blood circulatory system. This system involves the circulation of the blood pumped out of a special organ called the heart through thousands of the tubes called the blood vessels around the body. Dear students, the heart is actually made up of two pumps side by side. The right side of the heart pumps blood to the lungs, where carbon dioxide produced as a result of respiration is removed from the body and oxygen from the air is absorbed into the bloodstream. The left side of the heart pumps oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. The mammalian heart has four separate chambers, two on each side. The two smaller upper chambers with the thin walls are called atria. Blood first flows into the atria. When the atria contract, the blood is forced into the lower chambers called the ventricles. The ventricles have thick walls filled with the cardiac muscles. When the cardiac muscles in the ventricles contract, they squeeze inwards on the blood inside them. This pushes the blood out of the heart. The right ventricle pushes blood to the lungs, which are very close to the heart. The left ventricle, with more muscles, pushes the blood towards the body with much larger force. And beside this, there are four sets of walls found in the mammalian heart. Two sets of walls lie between the atria and the ventricles. These walls ensure that the blood flows easily from atria into the ventricles and not in the opposite direction. This is the general description about the mammalian heart. And dear student, this is the picture of the heart of sheep. You can see how it looks like, and we are going to now discuss the frontal and anterior and posterior view of the sheep heart. You can see this is the interior view of the sheep heart. There are left auricle and right auricle, pulmonary trunk, aorta, brachiocephalic artery, superior vena cava, and atrioventricular groove, and anterior interventricular sulcus. And if we look at the posterior view of the sheep, you can also see the superior and inferior vena cava and the pulmonary veins. This is the surface view of the sheep's heart. Now we are going to cut the sheep's heart into two longitudinal sections, and this is dissected longitudinal sections of the sheep's heart. Dear students, you can see the aorta, the right and left atrium, the ventricles, and the septum and the heart. If we view the longitudinal section, internal anatomy, you can see the right atrium, which is responsible for receiving the blood from the body through inferior and superior vena cava. And then the right atrium pushes the blood towards the right ventricle. You can see the right ventricle, a chamber of the heart. And this right ventricle is responsible for sending the blood towards the lungs. After purification from the lungs, the blood comes back to the heart and it enters the heart, the left atrium. When the left atrium contracts, it pushes the blood towards the left ventricle. You can see this chamber in this longitudinal section of the sheep heart. And you can see the left ventricle is having much muscular structure than the right ventricle, because it has to pump the blood towards the whole body. You can see, dear students, the bicuspid and the tricuspid walls in this longitudinal section. The valves are very helpful to maintain the one-way flow of the blood, because they are not going to allow the blood to move from ventricle towards the atrium back. Another view of the internal anatomy of the sheep's heart. In this view you can also see the aorta and the aortic semilunar wall, along with the other valves and the chambers. And dear students, this is transverse section of the apex of the heart. You can see the right ventricle and the left ventricle, and there is a huge difference of the muscular body of these two ventricles. Left ventricle is much more muscular than the right ventricle, because the left ventricle has to pump the blood towards the whole body, while the right ventricle is only responsible to send the blood towards the lungs. So right ventricle don't need muscular body as the left ventricle is requiring the muscular body. Now we are focusing on the structure of the valves. This is diagrammatic representation of the valves present in the heart. There are 4 sets of valves found in the mammalian heart: tricuspid valves, bicuspid valves, aortic valve, and pulmonary valve. Over here we are focusing on the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve. These two valves are responsible for the one-way flow of the blood in the heart from atria to ventricles. If we look at the structure of each valve, this is bicuspid or mitral valve. It is supported by chordae tendineae and papillary muscles. The chordae tendineae and the papillary muscles are very helpful in closing and opening of the mitral valve. After focusing on this, another view of the valves, you can see the bicuspid and tricuspid valves, how it is supported by chordae tendineae and papillary muscles. Dear students, I have selected some words for you as a spelling test, so please memorize these words: circulatory system, transverse section, mammalian, forceps, arteries, capillary, tricuspid valve, components, ventricles, and atrium. There is a homework for you. This is from Investigation 7.2, Part 2 and 7.3, which is present in your book of practicals. Solve the questions given in the practical journal from page number 69 to 72. And you have to do all these questions and then send to your respective groups. Thank you very much, dear students of 9C, for staying with me. Allah Hafiz. And one more request, please stay at home, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.